So we're going to practice making a magazine layout using the files of text and images that are provided to you guys. So if you haven't already, make sure you download these 5 files and have them ready. And in InDesign, we're going to be focusing on the spread for pages 2 and 3 here. And this will be for the next exercise and next video. All right, so first thing you're going to do is hit Command N or go File, New Document. And we're going to make sure that we haven't set our intent for print. Number of pages is 4, but we're going to start on page 2. Make sure that facing pages is checked. Letter is fine. Keep this as is. Keep this at vertical or portrait. That's fine. We're not going to change anything yet with our columns. We'll have some columns in just a couple pages specifically. Leave the margins as is, and we'll put a bleed. We'll put 0.25 inches because I'm going to have you guys adjust to inches once we get in. And if you're not seeing these, then all you're going to do is hit more options, right? Okay, so hit more options if you didn't see that. Hit OK, and you should have a document that looks like this. We have page 2, technically, page 3. So that's what the black lines show us. The red line shows us the bleed. So this is beyond the pages. If this page denotes where the print is, and this is showing us beyond the page being printed, and it's just kind of like a safety zone, so you can put images, really, not text, but images can go beyond that, right? So just to make sure that you don't have anything off center or like your image stops here when you want it to kind of take over your whole page. So we'll use that as like the little zone to go to for images. And then these are our margins, right? So we'll probably keep our text within our margins, okay? And let's go and grab, well, first, if you're not, go up to the top right, and instead of essentials, let's hit typography, and let's grab our pages, and you'll see that we can see where we are. So we're in spread 2 and 3 here. Just leave that as is, and click onto your layers. Let's make a couple layers, well, several actually, and let's name them. Let's name the first one headline, or title is fine, and name the other one logo. Name the third one portrait. Name the fourth one copy or text. And let's see, let's name the fifth one artwork. Let's make one more. I'm just going to name it color. And then we'll begin to build. So, and this is the example, the finished one for this page. So we have a black shape, that's what this is, a rectangular shape. There's a black, and then we have a frame tool, so frame here, image frame, with that portrait in there. So let's do that first. So that frame was the color background, so we're going to click on that layer, and I'm just going to hit Command minus so you can see. We're going to grab the shape tool here. It's the same as Illustrator shortcut M. And I'm using that bleed, that red line in the page middle to tell myself like where to place it. So that's there, but you can see that when I go up here or down here, the fill is a none fill with a black stroke, and we're going to swap that. So you can always go up here and say black, not registration, black, the color. If you actually were to print something, you want to choose the color. And then a none stroke. But you can also just quickly hit the arrow key there. That swaps it. And then I'm going to switch to my V or black arrow key. And I just want to make sure that this is hitting right on that page middle there. Okay, so we can extend it to the bleed, or we can have it kind of hovering within the bleed. But we do want it to be off of our page. The black is the page, right? So that if this were to actually print, or if we were to save this as a mobile design or something, that it's completely taking up that space. Oh, and before we go any further, so I had forgotten, I wanted you guys to switch this over to inches. So just hit Control and that top left like we had before and hit inches. Okay. And now we'll take the portrait layer. So I'm going to select that and hit F or get the frame tool. So remember that with the cross inside means that you're denoting an image goes there. And that is just from the way that designers, when they create sketches, instead of drawing a whole image, they'll just hit X or draw an X with it, just like this, right? So that kind of mimics what a sketch would look like. So we've done that, and then we're going to place. So that's either File, Place, or you can see the shortcut is Command D, and you're going to grab the portrait, the magazine portrait, and place that. All right, and it should fit just like that did, which looks like it fits fine. You can play with the fitting options. So get your selection tool and hit Control click, fitting, and it's usually one of these: fit frame proportionally, fit content proportionally. So that would not be that. So probably fit frame proportionally. All right, let's see. You can always check the way that things look by hitting Shift W. That's your presentation. So it shows you what's going on within the page. And I kind of like that the way it was before. So I'm just going to hit, for myself, Command Z. All right, so to see presentation mode, that's Shift W, or View Screen Mode Presentation. Another way you can place an image file or text file is just hitting Command D or File, Place. You don't have to have a frame to denote that size, but you will figure out the size after. So we can practice that with the logo. So in the layout, we have the logo that goes with this article up here in the top. And you can do that by selecting that layer and just hitting Command D and grabbing the AI file. That's where the logo is. And you'll see that you have on your selection tool that a shot of that image. So what you're going to do is just click and drag about the size that you would want, and then go to your selection tool. And I had put this right atop of the page, the black line, and I use the Smart Guide to help put it right in the middle. Okay. And then obviously you'll need to have your layer be at the very top above the color so you can see it. And then just know that if you change the frame size, it doesn't change the object. So that's what the two different arrows are for. So there's the frame, and then there's the object within the frame, and there are two different things in InDesign. So to correspond the two, you would switch between the arrows. So if I hit A and got the white arrow key, then now I can see the selection to that object within the frame, right? So I can move it around within the frame. So if I just go back, Command Z, back to the selection tool, hitting the frame, you can crop things, which can be useful when it comes to layout. And that's why the quick way to do it is just to hit Control, Fit, and Fill Frame Proportionally. Those top two are kind of the go-to, probably the most useful. Okay, so once you have that size, then put it where you'd like, and we can always resize this here. Now you'll see in my example, on this right page on the spread has 3 columns because I have in this page, page 3, I have the text broken up into 3 columns, and then the third column also has a couple images. So we can do that now. So what you're going to do is go to Pages and make sure you're in this spread here, and you're going to go to Layout, Margins and Columns, and we're going to say 3 columns for this spread, and hit OK. All right. Now let me go back to that just real quick. If you go to Layout, Margins and Columns, yes, you can do the column, but then there's also a gutter. So that gutter within the column is right in here. So if I were to, and I have this in preview so you can see, change this, you can see the gutter changing, right? So you might want to change that a bit. I'm just going to go back and click that twice. So I'm going to keep it at 0.125 inches. Okay, so now we have our columns, hopefully. And let's go ahead and put our text in, and then we'll do, actually let's go ahead and do the headline first. That makes more sense. So in our layers, grab the headline or the title layer, and grab the text, T, and we're going to make a text box. And so this text box, I have it going to about halfway in the page. And let's remind ourselves how we can set that up for ourselves. So we have the ruler here. We know that this is 8.5 by 11. So I can go to my ruler here on the left, and half of 11 would be 5.5. So find that, double click, and then your line will pop up. That's just a guide that doesn't show up as a print. All right, so with your text tool, now we can draw your text box, and you can always resize it, right? You can always change this around. Just because this guide is here doesn't mean you have to follow it. But so we're going to type for this one. So we're typing the name of this artist, Arnie Palmer, and the Academy after. That's the name of the title. So we have our text tool. You're clicking, so you have the cursor, and it's Arnie Palmer. Skip a line, and the Academy after. All right, and then highlighting that text, making it larger so we can see. For right now, let's make it paper, which means it's going to print white just so we can see it against the black background. Looks like 48 is probably good for that. Okay, and then centering it. All right, so you can see in the final draft, this is the largest, it's yellow. This is the smallest, it's blue. And this is the next second biggest, and that's purple. Okay, so let's go ahead and size those. So this was about 24, maybe 30. You guys can change this. You don't have to follow along the exact same that I have. This we can make 60. 72 actually. This we can make 60. And this, let's make that about 40. Okay, and so now you can see that that got cut off. I'm just going to bring this down so I can see my text again. And let's say that we do want it to hit within this guide. There's a couple things you can do and keep these sizes. So what I'm going to do is highlight this, and I'm going to go to my character, or up at the top here, it's the same, and this would be referring to the leading. So remember, kerning refers to the size of the space between letters. So if like I don't like the kerning here, I can go between the P and the A, and I can bring those a little bit closer together. Okay, but right now what we're going to do is practice with the leading, and that's the size within the lines. So right up here, You roll over, it says letting. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, like maybe 12 is way too small. 24 is still too small. It was an auto before. 36 is a little small, and you can always type in too. 48 is getting close. It's a little tight, so I'm just going to type in a number that I like, maybe about 52. Okay, and you figure out one that you'd like as well that fits within there. Okay, so now we're getting to the color. So change the color similar to the way you would with other programs, but there is a little bit of a difference when it comes to InDesign. It doesn't have all the colors there. When I go up here, right, and scroll down, you'll see there's just a limited color. So let's make that yellow. This was blue. And then let's say you want to make another color of your choice, like purple is what this is going to be. You select that and you go over to color, which is not up as a panel. So window, color, and you click here. And we want it about a purple. So you can make that purple. You get a little bit of a screenshot there. And remember, this means less blue. So it makes it more pink. So it's showing you that. You can see that. Less magenta makes it more blue. Less yellow. We want as little yellow as possible. And this is darker and lighter, black. Okay? So mix about a color that you'd like to make that purple. And then once you do like that, what you're going to do is you're going to go down here to your fills and say, instead of like new layer, but new swatch. And now you have that purple for another time. Okay? So there is our headline. All right. And then we're going to put in our text. So to put in the text, you're going to make sure you have your layers, and that will be the copy or the text. And that also needs to be above the color background. So we're going to use our text tool to create a frame and place, so Command D, the article copy. And this is just going to take up that box size. There is going to be that little excess signal, and we'll use that for the next spread. So just because we have 3 columns on our spread doesn't mean that our type's going to automatically go into those 3 columns, but those columns are there as like a guide, you know. So in order to change our text box, we're going to make sure it's selected and bring it on over, and just know that because the type is black at the moment, you're not going to see it, but the type is still there. Okay, so I'm going to resize that box so it fits within the margins and that bottom part of the midline, and click 5 times to grab the entire type. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go up to fill and tell it to be paper for right now. So this, on this spread, it will be paper. All right, back to our selection tool. So when you're in the type tool, you either need to click on the black arrow or hit escape V. And we're going to go up to object, down to text frame options. Note the shortcut is Command B. And then in our text frame, we're going to tell it that we want we want the columns to be 3. The gutter should be the same. So it looks like, yeah, we had it at 0.125 inches, so that's what it would be. Okay, so now it's going to fit the way that we had it according to our layout here. All right, and if we take a peek here at what I had, you'll notice that the type is probably a different size, and I have it set at a different font as well. And then we're going to be working with the first letter and quotes being separately sized and designed. So let's go to our type tool and highlight the entire type again. So clicking 5 times to grab that whole thing. And you can choose a font of your own, I had chosen Garamond Pro, just the regular. And that's a pretty basic font to choose. See here. So just so you guys know, like quick typography lesson, when fonts like Arial don't have those little lines like hats or slashes on the side, that's a sans serif. And if, like for example, the Garamond that we chose, that has those little tails and hats on the letters, and that's called a serif. So you're either choosing a sans serif font or a serif, and sans serif is just French for without sans. So choosing a serif font here, and other serif fonts that are popular like Times New Roman, sans serif fonts that are popular would be like Helvetica. That's probably like the most used font in our times, you know, like all the signs in stores are Helvetica. So choose a font you like. You know, I'm choosing this. Maybe Arial would be good, Times New Roman, but I wouldn't go too crazy with anything else. You know, we're just doing basic stuff. Okay, so we have it set at paper. We have it set at a font of your choice, and probably the font size is going to be about 10, between 10 and 12. So I like 10.5 for this. Okay, and then you'll note that yes, we have that little excess, and we'll take care of that later. Okay. So we were going to also show and practice creating like an illuminated letter here. So that is in your paragraph panel. So going up to Window, down to Type and Tables, and grabbing Paragraph. And we're going to be working, it's called a drop cap. So we're going to be working with this and this. So these two bottom ones to do that. Now, zooming in, this is actually a quote, and it looks like it's missing its quotation here, so I'm just going to put that in. And I'm going to select these two, and I'm going to tell it down in the paragraph panel, bottom here where it says drop cap number of lines. It's basically saying like what size of this do you want this to be, and I'm going to choose about a 4, maybe a 3 or a 4. We'll see what works. But we don't want just the quotes, we want that B too. So then I'm going to go over here, and it says 1 or more characters, we want 2, right? So that and that. And let's see what a 3 looks like. Probably a 3. Okay, so I chose a yellow to be the color. You can choose whatever color you'd like. You can choose a different color. You can practice making your own color again. All right, so then that's what you would have. And then a couple last steps. You'll see that I've toned down the black just a bit, so it's a dark gray. And we've also have some images in there. So going to our layers and popping up our color. I'm just going to click on that and select it that way. And then looking up at our option bar, keep it at that same color, but just change the transparency down a bit. Still want it to have a nice contrast, so it's not going to be too far down. Okay, maybe somewhere in the 90s. And then lastly is we're going to put the artwork in. So grabbing that layer, and we can just put these off to the side for a moment. F or frame tool. And we want those frames to fit within that column. We can always change this. There's going to be 2 of them. Okay. And then place, Command D, artwork 1, and artwork 2. You can choose what order you'd like. Now, you can see that the file is bigger than the frame, right? So Control, click, fitting, fit frame proportionally. All right. And then I'm just gonna make a copy. Still my selection tool, Alt Option, drag that down, Command D, Artwork 2 goes in there, and then fit it. All right. Now, what we need to do is we need to fit those within here. And so we're just going to knock some of this text over, and we're just going to do that by grabbing the text tool. And we want it to be a clean end, so I'm not going to pick somewhere in the middle here. I'm going to choose a paragraph. So I'm going to start right in there where it says like, and I'm just going to hit enter. I'm not trying to delete the text. That's just going to go to the next page, right? So when in the next practice file, when we go to grab our excess, that we'll start with that most likely. Looks like I made it a bit big. So arrange your layers the way you need to. Let's see. And I'm going to have to put even more text. So find the end of a sentence. Perhaps this. Escape and V. Using the smart guides to help you place. All right. And then to finish for this, you're going to hit Shift W, so you see presentation mode. And then you would take a screenshot of that, right? And this can also just be a way to check to make sure everything's fitting. You can always make things a little bit smaller. You know, if I was being really nitpicky, I'd probably make this a little bit smaller so that these things aren't so squished. But for the most part, we're just practicing making sure that you get how to put in images, how to put in text, how to make columns, and the things we've done so far. Okay, so again, Shift W, take a screenshot of that, and that is the first spread.